Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Intrepid, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. The ship moved slowly through space near the edge of human territory. They had been exploring this area for 3 weeks, looking for new planets and checking for any signs of alien life. "Captain, I'm reading something strange on the sensors," said Dr. Lisa Carter from her science station. She was the ship's chief science officer and had been studying space for over 15 years. Her voice sounded worried as she looked at her screen. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked, walking over to her station. He was a tall man with brown hair and had been commanding ships for 10 years. The crew trusted him completely. "It's big, sir. Really big. I'm seeing at least 50 ships coming toward us from the direction of the Kepler system." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "They're not human ships, Captain. The design is completely different from anything we've ever seen." Lieutenant Paul Davis looked up from his communication station. He was young, only 25, but he was the best communication officer in the fleet. "Sir, I'm trying to scan. They're communication frequencies, but they're using technology I don't recognize." Jake felt his heart beat faster. First contact with alien life had always been a possibility, but now that it was happening, he wasn't sure they were ready. "How long until they reach us?" "About 20 minutes at their current speed," Lisa answered. "Captain, these ships are huge. Each one is at least twice the size of our largest battleships, and there are so many of them." "Red alert," Jake ordered. The bridge lights changed to red and alarms began to sound throughout the ship. "All crew to battle stations. Paul, try to contact them. Use the standard first contact protocols." Paul's hands moved over his controls. "Broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain. Using mathematics and basic images to show we want to talk peacefully." He waited for several minutes. "No response, sir. They're completely ignoring us." The alien fleet grew larger on the main screen. Jake could see that the ships were dark and angular, with sharp edges that made them look dangerous. They moved, in perfect formation like they had done this many times before. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I'm reading massive weapon signatures from all their ships. These aren't exploration vessels. These are warships." Suddenly, Paul's station lit up with activity. "Sir, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming through clear as day and they're speaking English." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The viewing screen changed to show the face of an alien creature. It had gray skin, large black eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was cold and full of hatred. "Primitive humans," the alien said. "I am Admiral Krexthal of the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. You will surrender your ship immediately and prepare to be taken as slaves. Your pathetic species has been judged unworthy of freedom." Jake stepped forward. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth ship Intrepid. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people." The alien laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. "Peace? You miserable insects think you can negotiate with your superiors? The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. We have destroyed species far more advanced than your primitive civilization." "We don't want any trouble," Jake said, trying to keep his voice calm. "We're explorers, not warriors. Surely we can find a way to coexist peacefully." "There is no coexistence with insects," Admiral Krexthal replied. "You have 30 of your Earth days to surrender completely. Every human world, every human ship, every human life now belongs to the Zephyrian Empire. Resist and we will exterminate your entire species." The transmission ended abruptly. Jake stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. This was the worst possible scenario for first contact. "Captain," Lisa said, her voice shaking, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their weapon systems. They're preparing to fire." "All power to shields," Jake ordered. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers." The space around the Intrepid suddenly filled with bright red energy beams. The alien ships were firing massive weapons that lit up the darkness of space. Jake's ship shook violently as the energy beams struck their shields. "Shields down to 60%, reported Chief Engineer Marcus Webb from his station. "Sir, their weapons are incredibly powerful. Our shields won't last long against this kind of firepower." "Return fire," Jake ordered, even though he knew their weapons were much smaller than the aliens. The Intrepid's laser cannons fired back, but the beams bounced harmlessly off the alien ship's shields. It was like throwing rocks at a tank. "No effect, Captain," Marcus reported. "Their shields are too strong." More energy beams struck the ship. The lights flickered, and sparks flew from several control panels. "Shields down to 30%, Marcus called out. "We need to get out of here," Jake said. "Paul, send an emergency message to Earth Fleet Command. Tell them about the alien fleet and their ultimatum. Send everything we've recorded." "Message sent, Captain," Paul replied quickly. "Lisa, plot a course back to Earth, maximum speed." "Course plotted, sir." The Intrepid turned away from the alien fleet and began to accelerate. More energy beams followed them, but the distance was growing too great for accurate targeting. They fled. Jake watched the main screen show something that made his blood run cold. The alien ships were moving toward the human research stations in the outer systems. Bright flashes of light appeared where the stations had been. "They're destroying everything," Lisa whispered. "The research station on Proxima 7, the mining facility on Wolf 359, the communication relay at Barnard Star. They're all gone." Jake clenched his fists. Hundreds of civilian scientists, miners, and technicians had just been murdered without warning. These aliens weren't just conquerors. They were killers who enjoyed destroying anyone they considered beneath them. The Intrepid continued its journey back to Earth, carrying the most important message in human history. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their new neighbors wanted them dead or enslaved. Behind them, Admiral Krexthel's fleet continued its slow advance toward human space, confident that they were about to add another primitive species to their list of conquests. They had no idea that they had just made the biggest mistake in their empire's history. The war between humanity and the Zephyrian Empire had begun, and neither side would ever be the same again. Admiral Susan Blake sat in her chair at Earth Fleet Command, reading the emergency message from Captain Morrison for the third time. The words on the screen made her stomach feel sick. Alien warships, destroyed research stations, hundreds of dead civilians, and a 30-day ultimatum for humanity's complete surrender. "Get me President Hayes on the secure line," she told her assistant. "Right now." Within minutes, President Richard Hayes appeared on her communication screen. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. Being president during humanity's expansion into space had been hard enough without dealing with hostile aliens. "Susan, I've read the report," he said without waiting for her to speak. "How bad is this, really?" "It's as bad as it gets, Mr. President," Susan replied. "These aliens have technology that's clearly superior to ours. Their ships are bigger, their weapons are stronger, and they have us outnumbered by at least 10 to 1. Maybe more." The president was quiet for a moment. "What are our options?" "Officially, we have 3 choices: surrender completely, fight and probably lose, or try to negotiate." Susan paused. "Unofficially, we have a 4th option." "What's the 4th option?" "The classified projects, sir. The ones that don't officially exist." President Hayes nodded slowly. He knew about the secret military programs that had been running for decades. Projects that other nations and even most of his own government didn't know about. "Call an emergency meeting of the Global Defense Council. Full security clearance required. I want everyone there in 2 hours." 2 hours later, the most powerful people on Earth sat around a table in the deepest level of the Fleet Command building. Admiral Blake stood at the front of the room next to Dr. Amanda Scott, the head of the Theoretical Physics Division. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Blake began, "we are facing the greatest threat in human history, but we are not defenseless." She pressed a button, and the room's screens showed images of ships and weapons that looked like they came from science fiction movies. The people around the table stared in amazement. "For the past 40 years, we have been preparing for exactly this situation," Dr. Scott said, stepping forward. "We knew that someday we would meet aliens, and we knew they might not be friendly, so we built weapons and ships that we hoped we would never need to use." General Robert Stone, the head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward in his chair. "What exactly are we looking at, Doctor?" "Quantum displacement technology," Dr. Scott replied. weapons that can pass through any known type of energy shield, stealth systems that make our ships completely invisible, AI-assisted targeting computers that never miss, and ships that are much more powerful than anything we've shown the public. Admiral Blake activated another screen. We also have something the aliens don't expect. Captain Morrison's crew managed to record detailed scans of their ships during the encounter. Our analysis shows that their technology is advanced, but it follows predictable patterns. Dr. Amanda Scott pulled up more data. Their shields operate on fixed frequencies. Their weapon systems have charging cycles that create vulnerable moments. Most importantly, their tactics seem to rely on overwhelming firepower rather than clever strategy. They think like bullies, Admiral Blake continued. They're used to fighting enemies who are scared and disorganized. They've never fought an enemy that was prepared for them. President Hayes studied the information on the screens. How long do we need to get ready? The alien fleet is moving slowly, Dr. Scott answered. They're taking their time because they think we're helpless. That gives us almost 3 weeks before they reach Earth's outer defenses. What about our other colonies? Asked Secretary of Defense Karen Miller. We're already sending secret messages to every human world, Admiral Blake replied. They're being told to prepare their hidden defenses and wait for our signal. The aliens think they're attacking scattered, frightened settlements. They don't know that every human colony has been building underground military bases for the past 20 years. Meanwhile, on the UES Intrepid, Captain Morrison and his crew were working around the clock to analyze everything they had learned about the alien ships. Engineer Marcus Webb had taken apart their sensor readings piece by piece. Captain, I think I found something important, Marcus said, calling Jake over to his station. Look at these energy patterns from their shields. Jake studied the data. What am I looking at? Their shield generators cycle through different frequencies every 30 seconds, Marcus explained. It's probably meant to prevent enemies from adapting to their defenses, but it also means there's a brief moment every 30 seconds when their shields are completely down. Dr. Lisa Carter looked up from her own work. I've been studying their ship formations. They fly in perfect geometric patterns, but those patterns have blind spots. If we attack from the right angles, many of their ships won't be able to return fire without hitting their own allies. Lieutenant Paul Davis had been listening to alien communications. Sir, I've been recording their transmissions. They're not using any kind of code or encryption. They think we're too primitive to understand their language, so they're talking openly about their plans. What are they saying? Jake asked. They're planning to destroy every major human city first, Paul replied. Then they want to capture the survivors for slave labor. They think the whole war will be over in less than a week. Jake felt anger burning in his chest. These aliens had killed innocent people and were planning to destroy everything humanity had built. But they had made one crucial mistake. They thought humans were weak and stupid. Back on Earth, Admiral Blake was addressing the assembled fleet, commanders via secure transmission. Hundreds of faces looked back at her from screens around the room. Some were on ships near Earth, others at distant colonies, but all of them were ready to fight. Commanders, she said, in 18 days, we will face an enemy that thinks we are insects to be crushed. They have destroyed our research stations and killed our people. They have demanded our complete surrender and threatened to exterminate our entire species. She paused, looking at each face on the screens. They think we are primitive and helpless. They think our technology is weak and our tactics are simple. They think we will run away in fear when we see their mighty fleet. Admiral Blake smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. They are about to learn that they are wrong about everything. Humanity is not helpless. We are not primitive, and we are certainly not insects. She activated the final screen, showing the true size of humanity's hidden fleet. Ships that had been built in secret, weapons that had been tested in the darkness between stars, and technologies that would have seemed impossible just 50 years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Blake said, it's time to show the galaxy what humans can do when someone threatens our families. The war was about to begin and humanity was ready. Admiral Crextel stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Wrath, watching the human solar system grow larger on his screens. His fleet of 300 warships moved slowly through space, taking their time to enjoy the fear they were spreading. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, "We are receiving surrender messages from several human colonies. They are begging us to spare their lives." Krexthul laughed, showing his sharp teeth. "Let them beg. It makes no difference. We will destroy their major cities anyway to set an example. The survivors will make better slaves if they see what happens to those who resist us." What the alien admiral didn't know was that the surrender messages were fake. The human colonies were sending false communications to make the Zephyrians feel overconfident while they prepared their real defenses. Deep in space, Admiral Susan Blake watched the alien fleet approach from the bridge of the UES Retribution. Her ship was twice the size of anything the public had ever seen, equipped with weapons that had been tested in complete secrecy for 20 years. "Admiral," Captain Amy Johnson reported from the stealth carrier UES Shadow Strike, "my ship is in position. The aliens have no idea we're here." Amy's ship was using humanity's most advanced cloaking technology. To alien sensors, there was nothing but empty space where her massive carrier was hiding. Inside her ship, 50 fighter pilots were preparing for the most important battle in human history. "Colonel Peters, are your Marines ready?" Admiral Blake asked over the communication system. Colonel Ryan Peters answered from the assault ship, UES Lightning. "Yes, ma'am. My boys have been training for ship-to-ship combat for years. We're ready to board those alien vessels and show them what humans can do up close." Commander Nicole White spoke from her position on the weapons platform. "Yours Thunder. Admiral, all quantum displacement torpedoes are armed and ready. The aliens won't know what hit them." Admiral Blake looked at the tactical display showing the positions of humanity's hidden fleet. 200 ships were waiting in perfect position, invisible to alien sensors. The Zephyrians thought they were attacking a helpless planet with only a few dozen outdated defense ships. "Remember," Admiral Blake said to all her commanders, "we only get one chance at surprise. Wait for my signal, then hit them with everything we have." The alien fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system, moving in their perfect geometric formations. Admiral Krexthul was pleased to see only a small group of human ships waiting for them near Mars. "Is that all they have?" he asked his tactical officer. 30 ships against our 300. This will be over in minutes." "Admiral," his sensor officer reported, "I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the human ships. Their weapons seem different from what we observed before." Krexthul waved dismissively. "Primitive technology trying to look threatening. Begin the attack. Destroy those ships quickly so we can move on to their planet." The alien fleet fired their massive energy weapons at the human defense ships. But something was wrong. The human ships moved with impossible speed and precision, dodging attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. "What is happening?" Krexthul demanded as he watched human ships dance between his energy beams like they knew exactly where each shot would go. The answer was simple. The human ships had AI-assisted targeting and navigation systems that could predict enemy movements and calculate perfect evasion paths, technology the aliens had never seen before. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Ross was coordinating the electronic warfare from his position on the command ship. His fingers moved quickly over his controls as he hacked into the alien communication networks. "Admiral Blake," he reported, "I'm inside their systems. They're using unencrypted communications because they think we're too primitive to understand their technology." "What are you doing to them?" Admiral Blake asked. "I'm sending false orders to their ships," Kevin replied with a smile. "Half their fleet thinks they're supposed to move to new positions. The other half is receiving fake damage reports. Their formation is falling apart. Meanwhile, the human defense ships began firing back with weapons the aliens had never seen. Quantum displacement torpedoes passed through the Zephyrian shields like they weren't even there, exploding inside the alien ships' hulls. "Impossible," Admiral Krexthul shouted as he watched 3 of his largest ships explode. "Their weapons are passing through our shields." His tactical officer was frantically working at his station. "Admiral, I don't understand it. Our shields are operating normally, but their weapons are acting like the shields don't exist." Dr. Amanda Scott had been right. The quantum displacement technology worked by existing in a slightly different dimensional phase. The alien shields were designed to stop normal energy weapons, but they couldn't stop weapons that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Captain Amy Johnson chose that moment to decloak her stealth carrier right in the middle of the alien formation. 50 human fighters poured out of her ship, moving faster and more precisely than anything the aliens had ever fought. "Surprise," Amy said over the communication system as her fighters began destroying alien ships from the inside of their formations. The alien fleet tried to return fire, but their perfect geometric formations had become a weakness. With enemy fighters mixed in among their ships, they couldn't shoot without hitting their own allies. Colonel Ryan Peters led his Marines in a direct assault on the alien command ships. His transport ships used the same quantum technology to pass through alien shields and dock directly with enemy vessels. "Breach and clear," Ryan shouted as his Marines stormed through the alien ship corridors. The Zephyrians had never faced soldiers trained specifically for zero-gravity ship combat. Their weapons were designed for space battles, not fighting in narrow corridors against enemies who moved like they were born in space. Commander Nicole White unleashed her full arsenal of quantum torpedoes from the hidden weapons platform. Each torpedo found its target with perfect accuracy, thanks to the AI targeting systems that calculated impact points faster than any living creature could react. The alien fleet was falling apart. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before were exploding or being captured. Their perfect formations were scattered, their communications were jammed with false information, and enemy fighters were attacking from every direction. Admiral Krexthul watched his fleet being destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These weren't primitive insects, these were predators who had been waiting for exactly this moment. "Retreat," he ordered desperately. "All ships, retreat immediately." But it was too late. Admiral Blake's trap was complete. The alien fleet was surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere, using technology that made their weapons useless and their tactics meaningless. "Attention, Zephyrian fleet," Admiral Blake broadcast to all alien ships. "You came here to destroy us. You called us insects and threatened to enslave our children. Now you will learn why that was a mistake." The battle was not even close. In less than 2 hours, the mighty Zephyrian invasion fleet had been reduced to burning wreckage and captured ships. Only a handful of alien vessels managed to escape, and they fled in complete panic. Humanity had revealed its true strength, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The few Zephyrian ships that escaped the battle at Earth's solar system fled through space as fast as their engines could carry them. Admiral Krexthul sat in his damaged command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His mighty fleet of 300 ships had been reduced to less than 30 survivors in just 2 hours. "How is this possible?" he asked his tactical officer, who was badly injured from the human attack. "These primitive creatures were supposed to surrender without a fight. Instead, they destroyed us completely." His communications officer, one of the few crew members still at his station, looked up with fear in his large black eyes. "Admiral, I'm receiving reports from across the Empire. The humans are attacking our outpost everywhere. They're not just defending themselves. They're coming after us." Krexthul felt his blood turn cold. The humans weren't supposed to have the ability to attack Zephyrian territory. They were supposed to be cowering on their home planet, begging for mercy. What the alien admiral didn't know was that Admiral Susan Blake had decided to end this war quickly and permanently. She wasn't going to wait for the Zephyrians to send another fleet. Operation Prometheus was about to begin. On the bridge of the UES Retribution, Admiral Blake studied the star charts showing Zephyrian territory. Intelligence reports from the captured alien ships had given humanity everything they needed to know about enemy positions and defenses. "Captain Morrison," she said over the communication system. The captain of the Intrepid was now commanding a task force of 20 ships, including his newly upgraded vessel. "Your mission is to hit their supply bases in the Vega system. Make sure nothing survives." Jake Morrison looked at his crew with determination. They had come a long way since their first encounter with the aliens. Now they were part of humanity's revenge. "Dr. Carter, what's the status on our new weapons?" Jake asked his science officer. Lisa Carter smiled as she checked her instruments. "The quantum displacement systems are working perfectly, Captain. Engineer Webb's modifications to our Targeting computers have increased our accuracy by 300%. Marcus Webb looked up from his engineering station with pride. Sir, these alien ships won't know what hit them. Our weapons can now punch through any shield technology they have. Meanwhile, Captain Amy Johnson was leading her stealth carrier and 15 other ships toward the Zephyrian military base at Alpha Centauri B. Her mission was to capture their main communication center and turn their own propaganda networks against them. Remember, Amy told her pilots over the ship's communication system, we want prisoners this time. The alien civilians need to see what happens when their military leaders start wars they can't finish. Her fighters were equipped with non-lethal weapons designed to disable alien ships without killing the crews. Humanity had decided to show the galaxy that they could be merciful to those who surrendered, but ruthless to those who continued to fight. Colonel Ryan Peters was aboard the assault ship UES Lightning, leading 300 Marines toward the Zephyrian fortress world of Kepler 186F. This planet was where the aliens trained their elite soldiers and built their most advanced weapons. Marines, Ryan announced to his troops, we're going to show these aliens what real soldiers look like. They think they're warriors because they can shoot at helpless civilians. Let's see how they fight against enemies who shoot back. His Marines were equipped with powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any Zephyrian soldier. They had trained for years in ship-to-ship combat, planetary assault, and zero-gravity warfare. The aliens were about to learn the difference between bullies and warriors. Commander Nicole White was coordinating the deployment of humanity's most secret weapon, gravity well generators. These devices could create artificial gravity fields strong enough to trap entire fleets of ships, making them sitting targets for human weapons. Admiral Blake, Nicole reported, the gravity generators are in position around the Zephyrian home system. When we activate them, their entire defense fleet will be unable to move. Admiral Blake nodded with satisfaction. Excellent work, Commander. Begin Operation Prometheus. It's time to show the Zephyrian Empire what happens when they threaten humanity. Across Zephyrian space, human fleets appeared simultaneously at dozens of star systems. The aliens had expected primitive ships attacking one target at a time. Instead, they faced coordinated strikes against their most important military bases, supply depots, and communication centers. At the Vega system, Captain Morrison's task force destroyed 3 Zephyrian supply bases in less than 30 minutes. The alien defenders tried to fight back, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the quantum shields on the human ships. Target destroyed, Marcus Webb reported as another alien base exploded. Sir, they're trying to surrender, but they keep firing at us while they're broadcasting surrender messages. Keep firing, Jake ordered coldly. They had their chance to surrender 30 days ago. Now they get to see what happens when you threaten innocent people. At Alpha Centauri B, Captain Amy Johnson's forces captured the main Zephyrian communication center intact. Her Marines stormed through the facility, capturing alien technicians and seizing control of their propaganda networks. This is Captain Amy Johnson of the human fleet, she broadcast across all Zephyrian frequencies. Your military leaders told you that humans were weak insects who would surrender without a fight. As you can see, they were wrong about everything. On Kepler 186F, Colonel Ryan Peters led his Marines in a direct assault on the Zephyrian Military Academy. The alien soldiers who were supposed to be elite warriors panicked when they faced real opposition for the first time in their lives. These aren't soldiers, Ryan told his Marines as they captured another group of fleeing aliens. These are bullies who have never fought anyone who could fight back. No wonder they only attack civilians. The most devastating blow came when Commander Nicole White activated the gravity well generators around the Zephyrian home system. The entire alien defense fleet, over 500 ships, suddenly found themselves trapped in artificial gravity fields. This is Admiral Susan Blake of the human fleet, she broadcast to the trapped alien ships. You came to our solar system with 300 ships and told us to surrender or be exterminated. Now you have 500 ships trapped like flies in a web. The irony is not lost on us. The Zephyrian home fleet tried desperately to escape the gravity wells, but their ships were held fast. Human fleets appeared around them, using quantum displacement weapons to systematically destroy any ship that refused to surrender. Admiral Krexthul, now hiding in a damaged ship at the edge of Zephyrian space, watched reports of his empire's military forces being destroyed across dozens of star systems. In less than 1 week, humanity had crippled the military might that had taken the Zephyrians centuries to build. "Send a message to all remaining Zephyrian forces," he ordered desperately. "Tell them to retreat to the outer systems and wait for reinforcements." His communications officer looked at him with despair. "Admiral, there are no reinforcements. The humans have destroyed our shipyards, our supply bases, and our training facilities. We have nothing left to fight with." For the first time in his life, Admiral Krexthul understood what it felt like to be the helpless victim instead of the powerful predator. The humans had turned his own tactics against him, but with a level of skill and technology that made his forces look like children, playing with toys. The mighty Zephyrian Empire was falling apart, and humanity was just getting started. 3 weeks after Operation Prometheus began, Admiral Susan Blake stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution as her massive fleet approached the Kepler 442 system. This was the heart of Zephyrian space, where Admiral Krexthul had gathered the last remaining ships of his once mighty empire for a final desperate stand. "Admiral," Captain Amy Johnson reported from the stealth carrier UES Shadow Strike, "my scouts confirm that the aliens have assembled everything they have left. 200 ships, including their largest dreadnoughts." Admiral Blake studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was arranged in a defensive formation around their main shipyard, a massive space station where they had been building warships for over a century. It was their last hope for rebuilding their military power. "It won't be enough," Admiral Blake said calmly. "They still don't understand what they're fighting against." Behind her fleet came something the galaxy had never seen before. The UES. Devastator and its sister ships were humanity's dreadnought-class vessels, equipped with planet-cracking weapons that had been built in complete secrecy. Each ship was the size of a small city and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. Captain Jake Morrison, now commanding a squadron of 20 ships including his upgraded UES Intrepid, moved his forces into position on the fleet's right flank. His crew had become experts at using quantum displacement technology to tear through alien defenses. "Captain," Dr. Lisa Carter reported from her science station, "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the alien ships. They're charging every weapon they have." "Let them," Jake replied. "Marcus, are our new shield generators ready, engineer?" Marcus Webb smiled as he checked his instruments. "Yes, sir. The multi-dimensional defense grid is online. Their weapons can't touch us, but ours will go right through their shields like they're made of paper." Colonel Ryan Peters was aboard the assault ship UES Lightning, with 500 of humanity's best Marines. His mission was simple: capture the alien leadership alive. The galaxy needed to see that the mighty Zephyrian Empire had been defeated by the species they had called insects. "Marines," Ryan announced to his troops, "this is the end of the war. When we're done here, every species in the galaxy will know that humanity is not to be messed with." Commander Nicole White positioned her gravity well generators around the entire star system. Any alien ship that tried to flee would find itself trapped in artificial gravity fields, unable to escape the consequences of their empire's actions. As the human fleet moved closer, Admiral Krexthul watched from his flagship. With growing horror, these weren't the same primitive ships his scouts had reported months ago. These were vessels that looked like they had been built by gods, bristling with weapons he couldn't even identify. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice, "I'm reading energy signatures from their largest ships that are off our measurement scales. If those are weapons, they could destroy entire planets." Krexthul had spent his whole life conquering weaker species, but he had never faced an enemy with superior technology and unlimited confidence. The humans moved through space like they owned it, their formations perfect and their purpose clear. "Open a communication channel," Admiral Blake ordered. "It's time to end this." The main screen on every ship in both fleets activated, showing Admiral Blake's stern face. She looked directly at Admiral Krexthul with eyes that showed no mercy. "Admiral Krexthul," she began, 3 months ago, you came to our solar system and demanded our surrender. You called us insects and threatened to exterminate our entire species. You destroyed our research stations and killed innocent civilians without warning." She paused, letting her words sink in. Now your empire lies in ruins. Your fleets are destroyed. Your shipyards are captured. Your supply lines are cut. You have nowhere to run and nothing left to fight with. Admiral Krexthul tried to speak, but Admiral Blake continued. I am offering you one chance to surrender unconditionally. You will order all remaining Zephyrian forces to stand down immediately. Your government will sign a treaty acknowledging humanity as the dominant power in this region of space, and you will personally apologize to the families of every human you murdered. The alien admiral's pride burned like fire in his chest. He was a conqueror, not someone who begged for mercy. Never, he shouted, the Zephyrian Empire will not bow to primitive insects. Admiral Blake nodded as if she had expected this answer. Then you have chosen destruction. All ships, begin the final attack. What happened next would be remembered as the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The human fleet opened fire with weapons that made the aliens' most advanced technology look like children's toys. Quantum displacement torpedoes passed through Zephyrian shields and armor like they weren't there, exploding deep inside enemy ships. Captain Amy Johnson's stealth carriers appeared simultaneously throughout the alien formation, releasing swarms of fighters that moved faster and struck harder than anything the Zephyrians had ever faced. The alien defense fleet tried to return fire, but their weapons bounced harmlessly off the humans' multi-dimensional shield generators. Captain Morrison led his squadron in a direct assault on the alien dreadnoughts. Target their command centers, he ordered. Let's end this quickly. The largest Zephyrian ships, vessels that had terrorized countless worlds, exploded like firecrackers under the concentrated fire of human quantum weapons. Their massive armor and powerful shields were useless against technology that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Colonel Peters launched his assault on the main shipyard, leading his Marines in a boarding action that captured the facility in less than an hour. The alien workers and soldiers surrendered without firing a shot when they saw what had happened to their fleet. Commander White's gravity wells trapped the few alien ships that tried to flee, holding them motionless while human forces captured them intact. There would be no escape for anyone who had participated in the planned genocide of humanity. The battle lasted exactly 47 minutes. When it was over, the entire Zephyrian defense fleet had been destroyed or captured. Their main shipyard was under human control. Admiral Krexthul himself was a prisoner aboard Colonel Peters' assault ship. This is Admiral Susan Blake broadcasting to all worlds of the former Zephyrian Empire, she announced across every communication frequency in known space. Your military forces have been completely destroyed. Your government has fallen. Your empire is finished. She paused to let the magnitude of her words sink in. Humanity did not ask for this war. We offered friendship and received threats of extinction in return. Now you have seen the consequences of underestimating a species that survived and thrived on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The broadcast continued to every corner of what had once been Zephyrian space. Any world that wishes to live in peace with humanity will be protected and welcomed as friends. Any world that chooses to continue the path of aggression will share the fate of your military forces. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching the burning wreckage of what had once been the most feared fleet in the galaxy. Dr. Carter, begin scanning for survivors. We'll take prisoners, but make sure they understand the war is over. 3 days later, Admiral Blake received the formal surrender of the Zephyrian government. The treaty was signed aboard the UES Retribution, with representatives from dozens of other alien species watching in amazement. Humanity had announced its arrival on the galactic stage not as explorers or traders, but as the new apex predator. The species that had been dismissed as primitive insects had proven themselves to be the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Krexthul, now a prisoner of war, sat in his cell and wondered how everything had gone so wrong. He had attacked what he thought were helpless primitives and instead had awakened sleeping giants who possessed technology and tactics beyond his wildest imagination. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the galaxy would never be the same again.